and welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and in this video we're going to take our first impressions look at this new released kit from Gaspatch Models. This is a 1/48 scale Me163B Komet. So for those that aren't really aware of this aircraft, it's a late war German aircraft. And it's rocket powered. In fact, it's the only rocket aircraft or rocket fighter to have been ever flown. And for about 10 years, it unofficially held the airspeed record of around about 700 miles per hour. An unusual looking plane, which is what draws me to it, and a strange cross between a doodle bug and a glider. It's quite interesting if you watch some video of the aircraft taking off and landing. People have to hold the wings and run along with it as it moves off. But yeah, quite an interesting little aircraft with quite an interesting history. It was the fastest aircraft in the sky when it got up there, and to a certain degree, it made it a little bit ineffective because it was passing its prey before it could do any damage, so it couldn't really go toe to toe with anything. However, from the point of view of technology and innovation, it's a seriously important aircraft, really. A lot was learnt from this by the Allies afterwards. So Gaspatch Models have come out with a kit of this. It's certainly not the first kit of the Comet, but it's the first kit that I've ever owned of a Comet. Like I said, it says 1/48 scale. It even says high quality. We will see in a minute. Gaspatch Models are a company in Greece. This isn't their first model kit release. They have also released several different formats of the Henschel 123, which is the sort of early war biplane type aircraft. And they make some resin parts. I have never owned a Gaspatch Models kit before. I've never bought any of their products before, so this is a first for me. So let's have a look at the box. It's a nice, bright, colourful box. It shows the aircraft in high altitude. We've got this lovely blue colour and this parrot, which is part of the logo for Gaspatch Models. If we look on this side, we've got the barcode, the scale, and the same picture from the front of the box, and it's the same on the other side. On the long edge here, we've got some information in different languages and what looks like a little bit of history. The history is in several languages. And then finally we've got some kit dimensions there and tells you what's included, including 3D parts and photo etch plastic parts. And on the other long edge you've got the various different paint options that are supplied in the kit. So we've got 6 different options there, ending with post-war British owned version that was being tested. If you like painting yellow, that's a good one. They're all different variants of the late war German camouflage schemes, really. And we'll have a look at those more closely in a moment. Right, so let's just talk about the experience of buying this kit. So I've purchased this kit directly from the manufacturer. If you Google Gaspatch Models, you'll find their website. Now, I had problems ordering this. The website kept chucking me out. At the point where it wanted to take my money, it would find a fault. I ended up contacting them and making them aware of that, to which they said, we'll contact you about a direct PayPal payment, which was great. However, they didn't do that, and a few days later I managed to get the website to work, and so we ended up ordering it through the website. Now the box came in quite a sturdy box filled with polystyrene chips. Having said that, you'll notice I've still got some damage on the corner there, so it's taken a wallop at some point. But this box also feels very, very sturdy. We'll have a look at that when we open it in a minute. Now I've also ordered some masks for this. So Guest Batch separately will sell you vinyl masks. So I ordered a set of vinyl masks for this. Unfortunately, they sent me the ones for the Henschel. Now, again, I emailed them and they have come back to me apologising and they'll send out the correct ones straight away. So hopefully they will turn up soon. So the box is a forward flap opening box. It's quite sturdy. Folded edges. Yeah, it's quite thick actually. And even though it has taken an impact on this corner here, it doesn't appear to have caused any damage inside. There is quite a bit of space inside, as you can see, so everything in here is going to get thrown about a bit in transit, so there needs to be something to pad that in the box, or just a smaller box, I don't know. We have an instruction manual. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 grey plastic sprues, 1 clear sprue which is broken. That looks like the 3D printed parts. Decal sheets, photo etch, and a leaflet on all the products, which are the Henschel kits, and a Samson as well. All of their kits appear to be 1/48 scale at the moment. Right, let's take a closer look at the instruction. The instruction manual is A3, has a nice colour front, and it's staple and bound quite nicely. We start here at the top with the box art repeated for you. Then we've got the colour reference, and it's not actually mentioning a brand here. It's talking about the RLM number. So from that and it gives you the name and even a depiction of what that colour could be. So you've got an understanding of what you're looking for. You can Google these and match these to various different paints. So it's a fairly good way of doing it, rather than just mentioning 1 or 2 brands that the modeller may not actually use. You'll see at the bottom there's a couple of RAF colours. That'll be for the RAF owned option. Then you've got exhaust in the aluminium outside of that, but everything else is an RNL number. Then we've got the reference symbols here, which are all fairly clear. Make a hole, here's an option, glue, do not glue, the usual options, just different logos. And then right at the bottom here we've got tips and tricks. So study instructions carefully, use photo etch saw for cutting small thin parts from the sprue tree, use CA or white glue for different materials, take basic safety precautions, whatever they could be. Okay, we then turn over to page 2, as they have called it, and we have a really nice colour page here showing everything that should be in the box. A photo etch sheet, some vinyl masks, 2 decal sheets, our clear parts, our 3D printed parts, our 3D printed resin parts, and then the 4 grey plastic sprue. So we've eyeballed all of that except for that, which I'm guessing is in the packet with these. And then we come to the build instructions. So it says at the top here, number 1, building the pilot seat. And the first thing that's obvious is these are really, really clear colour instructions. Nice big pictures there. You're not struggling to see what's going on. It's showing you here, it says PE9, so we know we're on a photo etch part. It's showing you directions to fold things, and then it's taking you to the next step. So the blue arrow is saying go to the next step. It's got little direction arrows there telling you where to fit it. Then you go to the next step, and it's asking you to use the provided masks on that. So I'm guessing this is that clear part there. So that is really nice and very reminiscent of some of the what I would class as cottage industry companies like Wingnut Wings and Daswork, for example, who are using this sort of colour drawing format. It's a very nice way of working, and it gives you a quite a luxurious feel to the kit before you've even looked at the parts. It's very, very clear. There's no way you could look at that and go, well, I'm not sure what it's trying to tell me. So there's your first step. They've got these broken down into steps, although they haven't given them step numbers, just this build the pilot seat, which we're still on here. It's then giving you paint shout out. So whenever you see this palette, it's telling you what paint to use. So RLM 66, if we cross-reference that, is black grey. So it's telling you to paint the seats, the two seat parts. Then we're putting the photo etch on. And some other parts, and mounting the seat onto this bulkhead that we've built up at the start of the step. Yeah, and then we've got a lovely photograph showing you what the finished thing should look like when all painted up, and they're giving you the colour shout outs here for the photo etch straps as well, which they've got as canvas with natural metal buckles and leather. Was that on there? That's interesting. I didn't think so. So leather isn't mentioned on here as far as I can see, but then leather is shouted out. So this is not a full list of the paints you're going to need. And that's interesting. Okay, but we've got seat harnesses included, which I like. You've got what looks like, if the kit part looks anything like the drawing, then you've got quite an authentic looking bucket seat. And I really like the fact that you've got a end of step completed photograph of what looks like the model part, painted and dry brushed and what have you. So that looks very nice. I like that, and again quite reminiscent of Wingnut Wings. We flip over the page, and it says Step 2 Cockpit Tub Assembly. So again, this is mainly plastic parts. There is some photo etch straps over the foot pedals, but we can see that being built up. We can see it being assembled. It's showing you how to build up the control stick ahead of that going in. So it's very logical, step by step. I haven't worked out what the blue represents. It seems to represent, it seems to be just highlighting different parts rather than this is the part you've just used. I'm not sure. It's not quite like Airfix that the last part they've done is red. It's not quite like that. But clearly blue is what you're focused on. Then we're attaching that built up tub to the bulkhead that we've put the seat on. Then we've got some plumbing, so that's really interesting. We've got all sorts of pipe work. They easily could have missed that off at 1/48 scale, so that's a really nice touch. Quite pleased to see that. So quite what that is, I'm not sure, but we've got two photographs here at the end of this step. And again, we're using leather that's not shouted out, and it says wood. And again, wood was not on the list, so that's at least 2 paint colours we've not accounted for. But it looks really nice, doesn't it? We've got this pipe, not quite sure what the pipework is, but some form of frame anyway. Looks really good in place. Then step 3 is the fuselage interior components assembly. Okay, so we've got some hand wheels, various different bits and pieces. We've got some levers there which are photo etch. We've got pipe work going in, which is really nice to see. I'm not quite sure what these are, but they're clearly separate parts. That looks like a magazine. I might be wrong, but it looks like a bullet magazine. So there's no picture at the end of that because they put pictures in on the next page. So the next step is painting fuselage interior. So again, we've got a wood handle, but that's a different shade of wood than was used on the handle there. That was a pale wood. This is more of a dark wood. You've got your RLM shoutouts and then some parts aluminium. Bronze, that's another colour in addition to the listed ones. So it's very detailed. And then that symbol there, I think, is a decal. Let's just check. Yeah, apply decal. So we've got a nice little decal there. So I'm hoping that we're going to be able to, in some way, see that, because that's quite a nice little bit of interior detail they've added there. Then we go to building the instrument panel. Lots of individual decals there for the various gauges. Got some photo etch parts going on there, and they clearly get painted up, although it's not shouting out a colour there for those, but clearly they're supposed to be red. I'm guessing that's supposed to be blue, is it? I'm not sure. Not sure. We'd want to take some reference, have a look at some reference pictures. Then we go to 6, which is ammo compartment assembly. So what we saw before clearly wasn't the magazine. So another new colour, brass. Various components going into there. So it looks a relatively busy area with your magazine and feeds there. It even tells you to remove the seam lines from this, so that's quite nice. Nice little tip for the less experienced modeller. Landing skid assembly. So actually that looks quite complex, doesn't it? You've got what look like pneumatic parts of some description. There's basically the assembly that sort of the ski is mounted onto. It says use if landing skid compartment is extended. So that clearly tucked into the fuselage. So you could have that up or you could have it down. Well, I didn't see that there was a stand particularly, so, and as it looks pretty gorgeous, I think we would have that down. And then that's obviously your up position, so maybe it's visible in the fuselage but without all this complicated workings here. But I like the look of that, so we'd definitely have it down. Okay, then 8 is fuselage halves assembly. So we've got the exhaust cup going in there. Then we've got the ammunition bay that we built up going in, and that looks like some form of blanking paddle. I'm guessing the ski goes into there. Then the cockpit's going in, so we're building up one side of the fuselage. Then the dashboard's going in. We've got some photo etch pipework that needs to be painted. And then we're adding the ski. There's some more photo etch there, sort of holding that in. So we built up one complete side with the landing ski in place. Then we're putting the second half of the fuselage on, and then it's telling you to remove seam lines from these two areas here, because I'm guessing they'll be visible within the cockpit. Then we've got machine gun assembly. It's asking you not to glue a couple of these parts, and then we see these 3D printed parts here, which again you don't glue, and it's referring to them as a jig, so they're probably not permanent. They're there to help you align the machine gun in some way. Alright, okay. So the jig plugs into here so that you can align your machine guns. These will be inside the wing roots. Okay, right, fuselage. Okay, and then you remove it. Remove jig after alignment. So the jig comes off. We've got some more fuselage parts. These don't look like piping. These look like some form of control mechanism operated by the pilot. Then we've got some pipework of some type. And then we're masking some glaze units and putting those in. Still, it's very clear what's happening. The most complex bit has been the build-up of the machine guns, and with a little bit of study, that's not difficult. It's all clear. Then we've got wing build-up. Again, more stuff that is not to be glued together. So I'm guessing we've got movable flaps and ailerons. We actually have some photo etch here to be applied. Landing flaps retracted. Right, okay, so you can have them in different positions. And then we've got tail wheel assembly. So that's looks like we've got a separate wheel, so that's nice. It's not moulded in, so that'll look quite authentic. There's even some photo etch going on that as well. And then we've got main gear dolly assembly. So that seems to attach underneath the landing ski. So someone correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it had wheels on, and as it took off, the wheels separated. The wheels weren't something that were kept on the aircraft, if you like, which I think is why they're referring it to a dolly. I may be wrong there, but I think that's what used to happen. They sort of took off and the wheels carried on up the runway and the plane went off. And we've got some nice little photo etch. They've zoomed in so you can see what it's supposed to look like, which gives you a nice authentic exhaust tail there. And they've zoomed in here into the compartment to show you what that should look like. So you can have the gun compartment open or closed. That's a nice touch. We always anything that adds a bit of animation to the model, I always applaud. And you can see the tail wheel in place there, and it's a nice little touch there where you can see through the part, so you can see how it's attaching. It just helps you with alignment and being clear on what should happen. So I really like that. The instructions are lovely and clear. Then we've got, that's nice. We've got the forward glazing. This is actually the armoured glass, and that's assembled from several parts, so it'll have a really authentic look. That, Cockpit, Canopy and armoured glass assembly. So there's your armoured glass assembly. That looks really nice. I like that. Then we've got more parts going in behind that. Some photo etch parts as well. There's a decal there for the compass. Then we're building up the canopy. It's showing you where to put the masks. Got the little grab handle inside and whatever that is. Very nice. Then step 14, canopy, propeller and antenna assembly. So there's our antenna, there's our canopy. There's the little funny propeller, looks like a torpedo propeller on the front there, and IFF rod antenna, which goes out the bottom. They've zoomed in to give you the colour, so it looks like a wood stick with something on the end. And then green colour light there and red colour light there. Okay, very nice. Very nice. I like those instructions. Clear, precise. There's some written instructions. Yeah, that works for me. Then we're on to the painting guide. So the painting guide number 1 is from April 1945. You've got all the decals being clearly shouted out here. There's even a decal for the antenna, which is nice. You know, they've not missed anything off or dumbed it down in any way. You've got the colour shout-outs and the camouflage pictures. They've left a blank square there for the swastika so as not to cause offence in countries where you can't display that. And then you've got each individual component shouted out as well. So yeah, they're doing everything you need on one little page there, but it doesn't look overly busy. There's a lot of decal logos, and obviously some are one-sided and some are on both sides, but it's clear what they're doing. As soon as you look at it, you can understand it. It's quite intuitive, so yeah, it's not bad at all. Then we've got another 45 version. So if we look at the difference, slightly different tail pattern. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference really. Just that. Got a totally different camouflage pattern here, much more complex. Airbrushing that would be interesting. I think you might need to make yourself up a masking pattern or something. But it's quite a busy forest-like camouflage pattern. I quite like that. So that's from February 45. And then spring 45, we're back to this normal look. There's not a big difference between them really. And the same with this one. It just says Air Ministry. So I'm guessing 45. It's got some different decals on there which are quite interesting. And then finally on the back page we have the captured UK post-war version, which still has some of the German camouflage patterns on, but underneath it's all yellow. And obviously British RAF markings. That's a very nice instruction book actually. So the only, it's not even a niggle, it's sort of an observation, is not every paint called for is listed here. Otherwise, I have no problems with that at all. So in this little bag, we have our decals, we have our photo etch, and we have our vinyl masks. So I prefer a vinyl mask to the sort of the tape mask, masking tape mask that you get in Tamiya kits or Edward sets, because I think they generally have a sharper edge, and I find them actually easier to work with and to remove. They're less likely to rip. In fact, they'll stretch before they rip. So yeah, I quite like these. The die cut, you won't be able to see it, I don't think. But the die cut, and they cover the edges of the canopy, so you will have to put some additional masking fluid or tape between the edges that they've masked. So if you're airbrushing and you want to airbrush the whole thing, you'll need some additional masking. But some of the glaze units are completely masked, some of the smaller ones. So that's the masks. The photo etch. So it's not a large sheet of photo etch. I'm not going to open this. but we can see we have the flaps there. We've got the strap in there for the pilot's seat, and those are the bits we saw right in step 1. And then some of the smaller components that get shouted out, that goes on the ski, for example, those control rods we saw. And then we've got these 2 little parts here are actually 3D printed resin. So very nice. Yeah, all good. And then we have the decals. So we have a little mini sheet here, which I am struggling to pick up, so bear with me. There we go, and that has the German markings on, and then these things, which I'm not quite sure what they are, probably go around some form of panel. It doesn't say where they're made. But they are very nice. There's a bit of carrier film, I'd say about 1/3 of a millimetre all the way around, but nothing excessive. Let's have a look at this bigger sheet. So given the scale of the model, there's not a lot of decals on here, but it looked quite extensive when we saw it on the paint markings. So it's going to cover off most things, I think. Yeah, so the decals are cartograph, so that's good. That's good to know. We know they're very good quality. The register looks good. Colours are vibrant. Very nice. Very nice set of decals. We won't have any issues with those. So that's the decals and okay, let's have a look at the parts, and we will start with this 3D printed part. So I suspect we're going to see more and more 3D printed parts. They will start with the little cottage industry companies that produce occasional kits, but it won't be long before the big players start thinking about 3D printing as a way of delivering extra detail. And I have to say, you know, considering the fact that you've got to throw these away and they don't actually stay on the kit, they've done a very nice job of them. They could be a lot more rough and ready than that. There's not much in the way of layer lines. Yeah, that looks pretty nice actually. So almost a shame to throw them away. Okay, so I'm going to do these sprues in letter order, and the first sprue, sprue A, is the clear parts, and you can see I have a little problem, and that is that my canopy has broken off in transit. So there is a single sprue gate for the canopy on a raised leg, so it's quite proud in the box, which is what will have caused the problem, I'm guessing. Everything else seems to be okay, so we're going to remove that from the bag. So as you can see, the bag is a sealed bag, so it's not mechanically sealed, it's heat sealed, so yeah, it's all been kept safe and you're not losing any parts, so that's good. We've got some ejector pin mark pins here that have broken off, but that's not an issue either. So let's have a look at these parts. So we've got a bulkhead first, which is the first part we're in the build that we're playing with, and we've got some ejector pin marks there that are going to need a bit of fill. Difficult on clear parts to understand how deep they are, but they don't look severe. Then you've got this armoured glazed unit. Look how thick that is. And that looks really nice. That looks really nice. There's a little bit of distortion in it, but it's not massive. And that's going to be within a canopy anyway. The 2 side windows are very, very clear. And then we've got the we've got this little tiny part here, which is nicely moulded. So it's a good little sprue. It's this leg here that's caused us the problem, and as a result of this breaking off, there is a little bit of shatter damage, but it's actually inside the area we're going to paint, so there's no damage to the glazing when this snapped off. So what we're going to do is we're going to deal with that right now and make sure that that's looked after. But yeah, the canopy has no real distortion. Very nice canopy actually, and that should keep it nice and safe. So let's get all that back in the bag and look. So we're now on Sprue B. There's a small designation letter in the top corner here. They're in different locations on different sprues, and on the top you have a little tag that says gas batch models. And what we have is the wing sections here, and I think these are the doors for which you can leave open to have a look at the machine gun there. So let's have a look at this. We've got some lovely panels and some lovely rivet detail. There's not a lot of texturing because of the materials used in the construction of the real aircraft, so it's quite realistic in that sense, but there's quite a lot of rivet detail on there of different types, all of it recessed as far as I can see. Then we've got the little gun bay doors. Yeah, it's all very crisp as we would expect from a new kit, and very nicely done. The sprue gates aren't huge, but they're quite long, so easy to get in with your nippers. Yeah, I quite like that. That looks very nice. There's no detail on the underside, but what you can see is we've got a location pin type solution for marrying up the two halves, and that hasn't caused any sink in the kit, so yeah, very happy with that. I think there's a little bit of detail you can see in the light there on the inside, so when you've got this open, it'll look okay, and no ejector pin marks to clean up, and no flash. Yeah, very good. So the only issue you could possibly have with this would be with alignment. I'm just looking at this and wondering if there's some damage there. Not sure if that's damage or that's supposed to be there, but there's a little... Oh no, it's supposed to be there. It's in the same place on this wing as well. Yeah, a little notch in the top line there. Okay, very nice. Okay, Sprue C. Sprue C has the two main fuselage halves on, and it has various other main components. So we've got the tail here, which does have a lovely rib texture to it. We've got some of the flaps. I'm guessing they're wing flaps. Very, very nicely moulded actually. Very thin. They plane away very nicely. I'm thinking that's forward edge. And then we've got some nice raised bolt detail on these flaps here. These are the interior parts that go on the inside either side. So we've got the exhaust there. We've got these parts that go inside where the landing ski is. We've got the nose cone, which is a nice single moulding, which means we won't have any cleanup of seams, and other fuselage parts there. So we've got the recessed lines aren't too deep and aren't too thick, so they look in proportion and correct. We've got some very delicate parts here, I mean really delicate small parts. We've got the little nose propeller, which is very nice as well. And some pipe work as well. And then when we get to the fuselage, there's a lot of panel detail, bolt detail, interior wing detail is lovely. And so I'll show you this side and then we'll have a look at the underside. So you can see all that detail on the wings, lots and lots of panel and bolt and rivet detail. Some very fine pipe work there. Nose cone, flaps. And then if we flip it over, the only thing that's really got in detail on this side is the inside of the fuselage. So I'm guessing that the ejector pin marks are outside of our field of view, although there is some interior detail that runs down sort of the almost the full length of the wing root. But it's absolutely not excessive. A little bit of Mr. Surfacer and that's gone. We're putting parts in there to cover up those ejector pin marks. So there's definitely some real thought gone into the engineering. There's no sink, there's no flash. I think that looks proper lovely, really nice. Okay, Sprue D now, and we've got some of the smaller components on here. We've got this is the interior panel, if you remember, that goes in, that the ski mounts underneath, and it's got some nice rivet detail on there. We've got the assembly here for going on top of the ski, which is very delicately moulded. I'm not sure if that is supposed to be that thick or whether we've got a little bit of flash there. Could be a little bit tricky to clean out. Sharp knife, and you should get rid of that without any major problems. Seem to have another one there. So if you look at those two parts, those two parts are thin, those ones are thick. So that might not be flash. It might be it's supposed to be like that. We'd have to look back at the instructions. But they're very nicely moulded. Then we've got the ski. That's absolutely beautiful. You've got the little chevrons there, which you can dry brush and really bring those out because they'd be in contact with the floor. Then you've got the underside of the ski. I think that fits in the top, so the ejector pin marks get covered up. Again, some great engineering on this, and some lovely, lovely tiny mechanical fastener detail. Really lovely detail. Yeah, we've got the landing gear for the rear wheel gear. So we appear to have two rear wheels, so that's handy. They're a single casting, and then we've got single casting of the tyres and separate wheel hubs. Look very nicely done, actually. You've got the little detail on the tyres is really quite exquisite, and I can't feel a seam line, so that is really quite nice. Appear to have 4 tyres. Not quite sure why that is, whether there's a different variant coming out or what, but I think those are off the little wheel cart thing, this thing here, if you remember. Now they don't appear to have a back on, but I'm wondering if that's probably correct, is it? I don't know, because I can see little fastener detail in the rim. So let me show you that. So you see how they've got an open back? Well, in the rim you can't see it because it's so small. There is some fastener detail, but look at the detail on that. We've got rivets there, very fine moulding indeed. Don't know if you can pick out some of the detail is so finely cast on those tyres, for example. And then if we look on the inside of the ski there, there's lots of rows of rivets and fasteners. Yeah, it's really, really nice. So our last sprue is F, and it's more tiny parts. Quite a high part count for such a small aircraft, even at this scale. And we've got some very, very lovely fine moulded parts here. We've got the, well, we saw that going in, didn't we, that pipe work there. You've got the parts for the ammunition. But look what they've done here. You've got, this is the ammunition boxes and feeds, and then you've got the separate ammunition belt that goes on the top, so that they can get the very best out of the moulding and detail level that they can achieve. We've got our dials there, the cockpit tub as they called it, and the seat, some of the structure that went around that. And then we've got the machine guns. Now the machine guns will not be hollow. How visible the end is I don't know, but you might need to drill that out a little bit if you wanted. But you know, more absolutely tiny detail. Some of these you need to take off with a lot of care. Again, the level of detail is very, very fine. I mean, this is Tamiya quality moulding. It is as good as it gets moulding wise. The level of detail is sublime. The engineering is well thought out. They've avoided ejector pin marks wherever they can. I can't think of one area other than that glass we first saw that really needs any cleanup. It's very nicely done. Very nicely done. So, sold separately to the kit is the option of paint masks. Now this is in addition to the paint masks included for the Canopy. This is paint masks to allow you to do the camouflage. And this is the set for it here. It tells you at the top it's for the 163B Comet, and that they are vinyl masks just like the ones that we saw in the kit. And what you get is you get the camouflage for the top surfaces. You don't get a stencil for the tail, so that's something you need to work out for yourself. And then you get paint masks for the various markings, which is a really nice touch. There's two sheets involved. I'll show you those in a sec. So there's this big main sheet here, and then you've got this smaller sheet with other options. And it tells you that this mask represents the official Luftwaffe order of the Me163B Comet. So there was only one order put in, so when they ordered them, this is what they specified. So you can see that's the same pattern as we've got there. So you have the masks for both the green and the brown elements there. Then it gives you some tips. It says first paint light colours, first use bigger mask with reference points as with fillets, etc. Now, first use bigger mask with reference points as wing fillets, etc. So, not quite sure what that means, but if you look at the mask, it looks like that goes the full width over there. Now, I'm not sure which would you say was the lighter colour, the green or the brown, and I'm not quite sure why you'd need all of these. I'd be tempted to put the brown down first and then put the green on top. It would seem easier, but we'll come back to that again in a minute. So if we turn over, can open the packet and take the masks out. I don't like these bags with sticky strips. A number of companies use them, but they get stuck on the things you're taking out and then potentially ruin them. So sticking it down out of the way. So our two masks come exactly like the ones in the kit. We saw the drawings of them, so there's nothing really much to show you. They are top quality masks. You won't get better quality masks than that. And then here it's giving you the RAL colours for the fuselage painting masks. So it's broken the nose down into different masks for ease of fitting, I'm guessing. And then it's showing you the process for painting these various different markings. So it's doing white, then black. So I'm guessing that you paint the white, put your mask on so you can paint the black, and then put your mask on the top to do the thin black lines. I would have thought you'd have done that the opposite way around. Paint the biggest surface area, then the next smallest, then the next smallest. Obviously painting white on black could be problematic. And then same here, where you've got yellow numbers with a black outline. Wants you to do the outline first and then do the inner number, which again I naturally want to do that the other way around when I've done paint masks. Anyway, yeah, and the same again. So white and then the black. I'd do it the other way around, the black and then the white. I don't worry about light colours first, because you can remove the fact that it's a light colour in between. I tend to do the smallest pattern first and then build up. That's always worked for me when I've used paint masks. But yeah, a very nice set. I'm not quite sure what all of these round masks are. It doesn't really tell you where to put them other than on the fuselage. I'm guessing that might come out of the instructions, and those are the roundels maybe for the British version. We'd have to check with the instructions, but you seem to have a comprehensive set of masks here which will do everything you need. The only thing you have to work out is the tail. What are my first impressions? Well, we've got 148 parts in this box that builds up this Comet. Subject matter, 10 out of 10. I think the Comet's a very nice, unusual looking aircraft. It makes a nice display piece. It's not overly large at this scale, and it looks very different to other aircraft of this period. So I think the subject matter is brilliant. The paint options that they've given us, I really love the fact that they've given us a post-war test version, which gives us something totally different. The others, there's subtle differences between them, even down to the level of just different decals in places. But you have got 2 or 3 different camouflage options in there. I think the fact that they've given you so many different varieties is really, really good. And it smacks of Edward in the way that they've gone about that. So again, I'm going to give them 10 out of 10 for the paint option. Well, no, 9 out of 10, because maybe they could have found something very different, like a prototype version or something. I don't know. But yeah, they've done a really good job of that. And like I say, it's very Edward-esque in the way they've approached that. Box and packaging, given that this box has taken a knock and nothing got damaged, The box I'm happy with. It's really important that boxes are good and sturdy. This is a much better box than a lot of model kit manufacturers are chucking out at the moment. The top is quite sturdy as well, not that really thin card that you sometimes see. So I'm very happy with the box. I think the box is slightly oversized for the kit parts. As you know, I've got a part that's broken off, and that can only be due to the movement in there. So they either need to fill this with a little bit of bubble wrap, or tape the bagged parts down so they don't move, or get a smaller box. I'm guessing this is a standard box for all their kits, and that's why it's in this box. But that something needs to be looked at how those parts move around in this box. So for packaging, I will give them 8 out of 10, I think. The look of the box and everything is fine. When it comes to the plastic parts themselves, which is what we're really buying this for, it's up there with Tamiya. The quality of the moulding is up there with Tamiya. The quality of the engineering, how that's been thought through, the fact that ejector pin marks are hidden behind assembled parts, some very, very fine pipe work. It's very, very beautifully done. You can't fault those parts at all. 10 out of 10. Really, really nicely done. The level of detail that you see, the panel lines and the rivets, is all very fine. It's not over exaggerated or anything like that. So absolutely. So parts, definitely 10 out of 10. The instruction manual, putting aside the fact that they've not listed all the paints that you need, which is, I'm not going to complain about that. They're not the only people that do that. It's a minor niggle. Most people will have those sort of paints to hand anyway. I think the way they've gone around the paint instructions is a good idea. They've not named any particular brand. They've left that to the modeler, and I think that's a good shout. It might be nice for them to offer you a reference website where you can compare those colours with model paint colours. Don't know, just a thought. But the instruction manual itself, again, very nice. It's not too large, so it doesn't take up too much space on your desk if that's how you have your instructions. There were very, very clear full colour instructions, as we saw, step by step. You can't go wrong. The little pictures, very nice, very reminiscent of Wingnut Wings. So it's almost like we've taken the best of different manufacturers. We've taken Edward's ability to give you lots of paint options and display options. We've taken Tamiya's plastic parts and engineering. We've taken Wingnut Wings instruction books, and we've put it all in one box with some photo etch and some top grade vinyl mask and some cartograph decals, and presented you with something that's actually really, really nice. My only niggle with this whole thing is that there isn't a display base, and I know that that's quite common, and lots of modelers want to make their own bases, and maybe that's why they do it, and it would add to the cost. But if you're going to have if you want to show this in flight, you really want to put it on a base. The trouble, of course, is you've got to attach a base, and that detracts a little bit from the model. You've got the question of where do you put the base, and on a jet aircraft, putting it in the tailpipe is always a good option. But that's my only niggle. So, what would I give this out of 10? 9.5. It's a really good kit. If you're after a Komet kit in 1/48 scale, absolutely look at this. Beautiful. Proof of the pudding, of course, is in the building and in the fit. I just got a gut feel that this isn't going to be a problem. But as first impressions go, I would recommend you having a look at this kit if you're interested in the subject matter. Very, very nicely done. And I'm hoping that Gaspatch Models continue to bring out some more unusual aircraft and variants, and long may that continue. Okay, thanks for looking in, everyone. Take care, and I will see you soon.